So there is a subject I've been thinking about making videos for a year now. It's the story of the wool that was gifted to me. And it got postponed because I had other subjects to be talking about. So this is what we are going to be talking about as a new episode in my Woolly Stories series. I'm not sure I will be able in one video to talk about all the stories of all the fibers, all the yarn that has been gifted to me. So I will start with one in no particular order. So if you've been sending yarn to me and I'm not talking about it right now today in this video, I'll be talking about in a future video. So today we are going to be talking about one of my yarn, Kryptonite. So hello everyone, welcome or welcome back to my very small YouTube channel about knitting. My name is Isabelle and I am in France. I have several series on my channel and there is episode 100, I will link it down below, where I talk a bit more about myself and my cats and my sons and everything, my life. So if you're interested into that, I will link it and I'm not going to be talking about it any longer. So today it's going to be a special episode in my Woolly series, Woolly Stories series, sorry. And it's talking about the yarn that have been gifted to me. So what am I wearing today? I'm wearing my Hemsworth vest or slipover by Isabelle Kramer. And I knit it with Normandy wool, wool from Lenal West, from Normandy breeds. And it's a very, very rustic wool. We have a very particular weather today, lots of wind and sometimes a lot of sun, sometimes no sun at all, sometimes rain, sometimes no rain. So I'm going to wear a jacket on top of it, and I think a vest or slipover, débardeur, we say in French, is a perfect piece to be wearing in that kind of weather, where you can take your jacket off and be a bit cooler, because I'm wearing it with a very simple white t-shirt, or it goes very well under a jacket, and it's not making bulk around the arm, and because there are no arms, of course, and you can even wear it with a long sleeve shirt or something like that, and it won't add bulk around the arm, and I do like that very much. A while ago now, Caroline, she was the first one to send me unspun wool, Nutiden yarn, and it was one of my dream yarn, one of my kryptonite, the yarn I was drooling over everybody's projects and everybody's pictures that I was seeing on social media. But as you know, I have yarn no-buy project that I will also link the special bundle down below. And in this project, one of the things I'm doing for myself, is not buying any online yarn until I have knit all my stash, or at least all the sweaters quantities in my stash. So I was debating over, do I want to buy this yarn? But no, I have my project. I need to knit all my own stash before I buy yarn online. I have no local yarn shop in my area. So that eases my urges to buy yarn, and I buy only in person. So I was at this point of my thought process, and what I was telling you. And one of you, Caroline, you are in Germany, Caroline, contacted me and offered to send me some of her huge Nutiden stash for me to try and see how I can knit with it. So I was, one, very surprised, two, really happy, and I sent her some mohair, so some of my leftover. I usually buy way more than I need, so I had, I'm not sure I recall, 4 100 balls that were left from a sweater. I sent them to her, and I sent more this summer when I went back to the Pyrenees to get some more hair, so that she has a sweater quantity, even though it's not the two same colors. Anyway, so I accepted. She sent some of her stash to me, and she sent different leftovers that were in different quantities themselves, smaller quantities. But she sent me 2 colors that are 3 plates of each of the 2 colors of Nutiden. So that's a lot of yarn that she so generously sent me. And in all the yarn that has been sent to me, and you know who you are, the generous side of you who sent me so beautiful yarn. Why did I start with that one? That's not the first one I received. I'm looking at you, Rosemary. But because I'm not sure, because maybe I'm knitting with a Nutiden right now, and this is the one that was at the top of my memory. There is no rhyme or reason, there is no good reason, there is no bad reason. In addition to the Nutiden that Caroline sent me, and I'm going to be talking about it, another one of you. Why did I say that to you? Why did I say that to you? We were chatting on Instagram in private messages, and you told me you were in Spain and this summer. And I said, well, go to a local yarn shop that sells Wool Dreamer's Manchelopis. It's an unspun yarn. It's the one I had decided to buy once I have knit all my stash to be experimenting with unspun wool. For some different reasons, I'm going to be talking about that just after. And I said, in my mind, it was go there and buy some for yourself. I was not asking for anything. And of course, I should not have said that. I should not have said that. I know. I knew right after I said it. So you said, well, which colors would you like? I mean, so as I knew you would not give up, I said, some grays or blues or whatever, and I'll get some for you, for yourself. Unfortunately, what you told me afterwards is that you did not have enough room to bring some for you, and you brought some of this yarn for myself. I mean, I have no words for that. I have no words. It's so generous. And Caroline and Rosemary, and it's so generous. I have never, ever been expecting any of that, running that very small corner of the internet and YouTube channel on the internet, that's so small. And yes, I do have now some Manchelopis to be trying on, and I'm going to be talking about all of these 2 stories and additional European unspun yarn that I've been also thinking about. Okay, first the Nutiden, because this is what started it all for myself. When I started to see people on social media raving about that yarn, talking about the beautiful projects, showing their projects, so showing how light and fluffy and soft and warm the fabric produced with Nutiden is, and a very special hype around that brand. So Nutiden is from Sweden. It's a family company from Sweden, and they process the wool or the fiber from start to end all by themselves. And they talk about a very natural process outside as much as possible without any chemicals or harsh chemicals that would impact the environment. They use some essential oils, they say, to repel pests from the wool. And if you are sensitive to the essential oils, just leave the yarn outside for a couple days, and the oil is going to the quantity of oil in the yarn is going to be lowering down, and especially the fragrances that are usually promoting allergies. And also, they started this process because one of the members of the family, I think her name is Caroline, I will write it down below if it's not the right name, had allergies to many chemicals and many other things from the environment. And so they started to undergo that process. Thing is, they have an economical model and a distribution model that I can understand why they are doing this, but also that kind of stops me from wanting to buy, even though I'm drooling over all of the projects and everything I see with Nutiden on social media. Their model is, and my lady Ka is coming back home, so I'm going to be opening to her because we have a very, very, very bad weather right now. Okay, what I was saying before she came back home, I was trying to keep an eye on the windows because the two other ones are inside, and we have a lot of wind, and we've been having some thunderstorms in the past few days. So and I'm going to go teaching right after I'm filming this video, so I don't like to let them out when I'm not home. So I was trying to kind of see whenever she would come back. Anyway, so what I was saying is that the distribution model and the economical model I can understand, but it's what kept me from jumping and buying some Nutiden yarn at the time where I was still buying yarn online and buying too much yarn online. You have to be, the way I see it, it's not the real way it is, but the way I see it is that you have to be member of a selected few, so you pay to be member of the Patreon. And once you are a member of the Patreon, you have access to buying the yarn that they place online in their shop, in their web shop about every season, or they dye wool and yarn according to seasons, with colors according to seasons, and I'm not sure, they have maybe sometimes 2 releases in one season, I'm not sure. But anyway, it's related to the season, to the earth, to preserving the earth, and I like all of that. But being member of a special group you have to pay for to be in, and pay for buying the yarn, of course, pay to buy the yarn, that's normal. I'm not quite sure I did like that very much. On the other hand, I do understand that with a small family business, that allows you to know what the number of customers are going to be and produce what you sell without much waste, because after the members of the Patreon have made their pick and bought the yarn, the web shop opens to the whole world, and the remaining of the stock, you can buy the remaining of the stock without being a patron. I do understand how this model works, and it works for them good, and I'm not saying that they should do otherwise. Of course not. They do what is good for them, and they have a public, they have a customer base. They have many influencers on social media who are talking about their product, that it's a beautiful yarn. I do agree now, because I've touched it myself, and I'm knitting with it myself, but thanks to Caroline. But this process I was not quite at ease with, and this is why I had not bought any. I do understand, and if this yarn is so hyped, and if people rave about and set their alarm clocks whenever the web shop is opening, good for them. Good for them. That makes them, having a sustainable company and feed family and other people. Good. It was just me. It was just me. Anyway, I will also link the video down below. I talked about my yarn kryptonite, the one that I'm dreaming about, the one I will buy once I've knit all my stash and I can start buying yarn online again. And it was one of them for all of these reasons. Caroline so generously contacted me, and she said, okay, you don't have to say yes, but your project, I have been thinking about your project and your no-buy project, and my stash is very big, huge. And I would like to send some of my Nutiden stash to you. I know this stash process. So of course, I said yes, of course. I was unable not to send anything in return. Even though it's never been, you send me something, I send you something. Of course not. Of course not. But of course, I sent her some of my mohair, and I had a great pleasure to choose, and for two other of you, some mohair this summer that I bought especially for you. It was a great pleasure for me, and even a bigger pleasure to be thinking of you, buying yarn for you and sending it out. It's as intense and even more intense than receiving it. So Caroline sent me 3 plates of 2 different colorways. This is Parallel. Parallel is the one I'm using right now to knit with the fleur shawl in the Floralong Cal. I'm going to leave the details down below, and I'm going to show it to you. And what I've seen on the Nutiden, the different colors I have, you see that the base is a bit gray, and you have colors and sparks of colors that are in the wool, and that make the overall color when you see it from a distance. And you see that there is a lot of depth in these colors, and I love that very much. In a way, I like when the color of a yarn is not what I feel as flat and uniform, even though I do have yarn that is that way and I love it. But I really appreciate when the yarn has some depth in the colors and the way it looks. So this is Parallel, and the other colorway is Dove Color. I'm not sure I pronounced that correctly. And I also have 3 plates, and this is more washed out because of the light. But it's a lighter base with very light pink accents into it. And at first, when I received it, I thought about knitting the Cathedral sweater. As I have not started knitting with it, I have not decided yet. But now that I know how I need to be knitting with unspun wool, I'm not sure I'll choose an all-over, or at least for the yoke, a lace yoke with that unspun wool. So when I first decided I was going to knit with the yarn that Caroline sent me, I decided to choose a pattern that would not be that difficult, and see, not as a swatch but as a practice piece, how I'm knitting with that yarn, and decided to join the Floralong Cal that Jackie and Carmen are running on their Instagram and their, I guess also their YouTube channel. The fleur shawl is a shawl, a free pattern by Espace Tricot. And it's a triangle type of, based on a triangle shape for the shawl, because you increase at the middle is about here, but you also increase on either sides, and it's not at the same rate, so it makes a very large and elongated wingspan for the shawl that I like very much. Anyway, so I chose to mix, so this is what is left of my second plate of parallel, and the white, this is what is left of the first bowl of the white, and there is another one. So I will have enough to finish the shawl. I will have enough to finish it. But anyway, I thought some garter is going to be a good starting point to see how I'm knitting with that yarn and how that yarn knits with me, because some people say that it's part of the hype that the yarn decides what it wants to be with you, and so I said, okay, let me have the yarn tell me what it wants to be. Knitting with Nutiden is quite an experience, and I decided to make bubbles because the shawl has bubbles. It's another dimension, and it's not as difficult as it would be with lace, but it is quite of a particular and difficult process for me. And I discovered I'm not a continental knitter. I've tried. I can't learn that, maybe because I'm old and I've been knitting for over 50 years now. I'm still 61, and I started to knit. I was a little girl, maybe 5 or 6 years old or something like that. I have my yarn on my right finger, and I throw my yarn. I think you say you're a picker. I throw my yarn with my right finger. So purling is not difficult for me, because to knit I throw in one way, and to purl I throw in the other way. But I'm not removing my hand from my right needle. It's only my finger that moves. So purling is not a problem for me. Anyway, I discovered I like to have a lot of tension on my finger with my yarn. Had I not had the opportunity to knit with a Nutiden, I would have never guessed that, because I've always been knitting this way, and all of the yarn that I've knit so far was spun yarn, and anyway, I would not have any opportunity to discover that. So I had to learn again to knit without having tension on my finger, which is quite an experience, and it was quite difficult. I also wrap the yarn around my pinky finger, and I adjust tension between pressing my hand on my fabric with the my right hand on the right needle. So pressing my hand makes me have more or less tension, and moving my finger closer or further away from the stitches I knit also adjusts the tension. I discovered that. I did not know that. So anyway, I started to knit in a different way, and it took me quite a while to understand. Not a lot of breakage, because I knew it would break. What I say, it breaks just by looking at it. So I know the yarn was easily breakable, but it's also easy to fix and join. So that's not a problem. I did not break much yarn. Sometimes I would have threads that were very thin. I'm not sure, either it was the way it was in the plate and that's the way it was, or it got, pulled on. And I think this white one is much more fragile than the colored one so far, what I've seen. And sometimes the threads are very thin, and I usually see that once I'm knitting the stitch again, the row above. So what I do, I usually knit from one row below and include the yarn, the stitch where the yarn is very thin to make it stronger and hopefully not break while I'm knitting the rest. Anyway, quite an experience. I do agree that this yarn is completely up to what people say of it on social media. And if you want to knit with it, you won't be disappointed past the point of maybe changing the way your knitting technique. So I'm knitting single-stranded. That's also another thing. I think if you knit double-stranded, it's gonna be less fragile or less. You will have to be less careful when you knit with double-stranded. But I chose to knit single-stranded, and the bubbles are quite difficult because as the yarn breaks, and in particular, the white one is more fragile and more prone to breaking. The bubbles are quite difficult. I need to be making a bubble row right now, and I've been postponing that and not knitting on that project because I had a lot of stress last week. The beginning of the week, you're going to be seeing the video most probably. If I need to record a bit more, I will. A lot of stress, and it was too difficult for me not to pull on my yarn with my finger while I was knitting. So I said, okay, let's move to something else, and I casted another project on. So I'm doing, the what everybody calls the Weaven-Steven technique to when changing colors or things like that, or I just split splice and join when I'm in the middle of the row. I'm not sure why it's that way here. I do not recall what happened. But anyway, the Weaven-Steven I weave as I go. It's the Weaven Isabel because I guess I was already doing that before he was even born. And my grandmother told me, so my grandmother was also doing that before him, most probably. So I'm going to let it that way once I block it, so to felt it a bit, and because this yarn is easy to felt. And once I block it, and then I will clip just the remaining of the pieces that are left over. So I think, I think it's my weaving when I was changing colors at the beginning of the row. Anyway, an absolute pleasure that I would never have been able to experiment if it was not for one of you so generously sending me some of this yarn. Once I buy yarn again online, once I've knitted my stash, will I buy yarn again? Will I buy Nutiden? I don't know, because the economical model, unless they change it, I'm not sure I will like it more in a year or two from now than today. And also because there are other options. Okay, and one thing I wanted to say at the beginning when I was talking about Nutiden, and I have not said at all, was it's 100. The plates are 100 grams for 515 meters or 563 yards. And you can knit this wool at a lot of gauges, from 2 millimeters to 5 millimeters needle with 5 millimeter needles, or even more. They say US 0 to 8. I'm sure I've seen also people knitting, for example, ranunculus sweaters with Nutiden at a very bigger gauge, even bigger gauge and bigger needles. And what I haven't said, and it's part of the story that I like no matter what. So they say they collect wool from sheep from Sweden next to them, and they process the wool by themselves. So that I've already said that. And from the wool they collect, the way it behaves, they kind of adjust what the colorways are going to be, and everything is unique. So every season when they release, or every release, it's a unique colorway, maybe not the white, I guess, but a unique colorway that is not going to be back in that form because of the depth and the dyes they use and the way the wool takes the dye and everything. So I think it's also part of the what made the hype. It's the FOMO, the fear of missing out, the fear of, if I don't buy it now, I will never see it again. It's a smart process, but it's a process that I do not like much, and it forces people to buy because they are afraid they will never see it again, which is true. But if you look in the past history, I think, I haven't really looked at, but if you wanted some kind of green, you would have some kind of green. Maybe not this season, but the next. Some kind of pink, you will have some kind of pink. So organizing people to be tempted to buy because they won't find the yarn any longer or the colorway any longer. This is also what I did not like much. But anyway, the fact that they say that the wool talks to them to decide which colorway they are going to be dyeing, and the fact that they say also you can knit at basically any gauge, I think it's also part of the hype. Okay, so I said there were other options, and when I was in my thought process about my yarn kryptonite and what I wanted to be buying after I knit all my stash, in the unspun world, I started to be looking around, and I have to say, it's Making Stories, the magazine I'm subscribed to their newsletter, who first pointed me at this wool, this yarn. It's Wool Dreamer's Manchelopis. So Manchelopis in Wool Dreamer are located in Wool Dreamers. Sorry, is located in Spain, and some of the mohair I use and I buy in France is processed in Spain because we only have a couple mills that are left, still active in France, and there are other mills in Spain and Italy where Mohair de France, that type of cooperative of company that gathers all the mohair from the people who want and process it at once, they usually send, when the mills are not available in France, they usually send in Spain or in Italy. Anyway, Making Stories talked about Manchelopis when they carried it in their own web store. So I said, okay, let me have a look at that. So Manchelopis is from Spain. They say it's a decay weight, 230 meters, so 252 yards for 100 grams, so a bit less than the Nutiden, which is 515 meters per 100 grams. But the particularity of the Manchelopis is that you have each plate is 2 strands at once at the beginning. So you already start knitting with 2 strands. So I was thinking, yes, that's a difference. So I will have to see between Nutiden single-stranded, Manchelopis double-stranded, Manchelopis single-stranded. And so I was going on my merry way and just thinking about Manchelopis and saying, okay, this one is on my list for sure. Because all the process, they also have Onyx wants to go out, but I won't because I'm going to be teaching soon, so I won't let him out. And so dream weavers and Manchelopis, I watched a few person, I'm not sure I recall because it was quite a long time ago now, went there and had some kind of a vlog about going to the mill and talking to them. And they also have an environmental process, and they are conscious of the waste and the environment and not trying to use harsh chemicals and be respective of the people they hire and everything. So I liked very much their own process and the way they make the yarn. Okay, good. And Manchelopis is made with also local sheep breeds. It's Manchega wool from the sheep from the area. And that's also something that is important to me because we can be talking about making or having less impact on the environment. But if we buy wool that has been traveling across the world and has a very, very bad carbon footprint, what would be the use? So to me, buying wool from Spain or buying wool from Sweden, I'm about in the middle. So my carbon footprint would be about the same. And I may at some point try to find if there are places I can go in France to buy the yarn in person because it's already there. Of course, there are places I can in France selling the yarn, but will I go there? I will have to adjust at some point and arrange that. Not sure what I'm going to be doing. Anyway, one of you who have already sent me yarn and we've exchanged packages because I got also a sweater quantity of mohair this summer for this person, was in Spain and I said, okay, go to a local yarn shop carrying wool dreamers, Manchelopis, and okay, you brought me some and you did not bring any for yourself. I feel so bad. At the same time, I feel very pleased and very happy you did that for me. And I feel so bad you did not do any for yourself. Anyway, I'm going to be just showing the little card that said friendship. It's all about that. And you are so right. You are so right. And this is what I like in this community is meeting people online, and we've never met in person, but you feel like friends, really close friends. So anyway, she said, or you said, which colors would you like? And I said, I should not have said, at the moment I wrote that, I said, I should not have said that. I should not have. Anyway, so I said anything between gray and blue and whatever. So you sent me, so you see as I go closer or further away from the light, it changes. So that's a lot of depth of color too. So this one is, I guess it's either the medium gray or the light gray that has a lot of purple in it. And you said maybe you won't like it. And I said, okay, I like it a lot. So this grayish purple, and you see as I move the cake further away or I change the orientation from the light, how the wool changes color, the way you see it. And that's what I call a wool that has a lot of depth. So you send me 3 plates of this one and 1 plate of the plain white. So I'm going to try to find a color work, a sweater color work. I have several ideas. I need to, arrange my thoughts and see what I want to be doing. And the yarn comes from, with two strands already in the plate. So you can knit single-stranded or double-stranded. I think I'm going to be knitting double-stranded. So you see from that side with less direct light, it looks a bit blue or purple, and when I place it on that side, it looks really gray, and with more light, really gray. So a beautiful, beautiful yarn once again, and I'm caught here. Okay. Beautiful yarn once again. I'm so pleased. I also have the opportunity to be knitting with Manchelopis. I like their project. I like what they are doing, and when I was thinking, which one will I buy once I allow myself to buy online? It was between the Manchelopis here and another one from yarn from the Istex family. It's the Plötulopi. So this is also an unspun Icelandic yarn, and I have not done my homework, and maybe I will do it before I post the video and write it down below. I'm not sure which one was the first one. In my imagination, I would say the Istex company was before the Nutiden company, but I have to do some research about that. Anyway, Plötulopi, I don't have any to show you, and I'm sure I may buy some at some point. It's 300 meters or 328 yards for 100 grams, so a bit in between the two. And once again, I'm sure you can knit at a lot of different gauges. So the Istex family of yarn, the Istex type of yarn, it's this is Icelandic wool that, as the Normandy wool, is very rustic and can trap a lot of air and be water repellent. So warm and water repellent, because these rustic sheep have coarser hair because they live outside, and the yarn is a bit coarser and a bit scratchier than very soft wool like this one. So what Plötulopi, I'm not sure, but what I've heard about people knitting with it is what it was a bit coarser and a bit rougher to the touch, but I'm sure it will be very water repellent and protective of humidity, and very warm, as the knitted fabric will trap a lot of air, and this is what I like very much about these yarns. So all in all, what am I liking most? I'm not sure there are things I like most. I'm not going to be comparing the two, the Manchelopis and the Nutiden. Even if they are in the same type of yarn, the same family of yarn, they are not really comparable. They are as soft, and I'm sure you can knit the same project with any of them. The Plötulopi, I'm not sure how it is to the touch, so I can tell, but both of them here are extremely soft, and it's all in all, it's a very different knitting experience for myself, and it's a very particular. I'm going to be making projects that I've never been knitting before. I've made sweaters, I've knit with mohair, I've made shawls, I've made cardigans, I've made coats when I was young, I've made dresses. But I think these projects, to me, are going to be completely unique because I have never ever been knitting with that before I casted on the fleur shawl. And this is all thanks to you. Thanks to this community, thanks to all the people who are talking about yarn and fiber, who are tempting me, of course, who are tempting me. But I would not have discovered pre-wool if it was not for people talking about on social media, because my own yarn shops that are not too far away carry only French commercial wool and nothing else, no indie dyers, no independent makers, just the brand name for the store, and they do not have unspun. So I would never have discovered that. So I thank you very much for expanding my knitting experience. You are the one who allowed me to do that, and I thank you so much for that. I thank you for being here with me and for surrounding me when times are difficult, for helping me having unique exchanges with each and every one of you, for receiving all my little stitches, because as I say, I'm sending all my little stitches over to you and my happy and joyful stitches over to you. That means that when I'm not comfortable, when I'm stressed out, and I still am a bit stressed out, and I will talk about that in another video. But when I'm a bit stressed out, I think of you, and I'm thinking about placing joy and happiness in my little stitches to send to you, because I'm not able to do it for myself. And so thank you very much for being here with me, for being in this beautiful community where we exchange words when we talk with each other down below in the comment section, when we exchange yarn, when we exchange experiences, where you make my life better. You make my life better by being here, and also because as I want to place joy and happiness in my little stitches, if I can't do it for myself, I do it for you. And I do hope you manage to do it also for yourself. And if you can't, and if you're stressed out, do it for other people, and think of these people when you are knitting. It will allow you to place joy and happiness into your life, because it's not happening all by itself, especially when life is difficult and stressful and when you have no good news and everything. So thank you for being here with me. Thank you for watching this video, for liking and commenting and doing all the YouTube goodness for my channel. And yeah, I will see you next time.